It's time to break down the West Region brackets for the Big Dance. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I do videos every single day, and right now it is March Madness, so you are going to get your daily dose of March Madness right here on Golden Blue Dude. If you don't know already, I'm obsessed with college football and college basketball. I bought a whiteboard and I wrote out my brackets. Yes, that's how into it I am. First up, we have these playing games. The 16 seeds, Norfolk State and Appalachian State. I think Appalachian State is the better team, so I'm going to take Appalachian State. But beyond that, there is no way that Gonzaga is going to lose to a 16 seed. Next up, we have the 8-9 matchup between the 8 seed Oklahoma and the 9 seed Missouri. This can be tricky. Oklahoma finished the season 15-10, and Missouri finished the season 16-9. Oklahoma averaged 74.8 points per game and allowed 69.2 points per game. Missouri averaged 73.6 points per game but allowed 71.9 points per game. Oklahoma 5-7 against the top 25, and they finished 6th in the Big 12. But the problem is they lost 5 out of their last 6 games. Not good. And they lost in the quarterfinal of the Big 12 championship. Now for Missouri, they're actually 4-2 against the top 25. That's not bad. 3-3 in the last 6. Not great. Better than Oklahoma. They also lost in the SEC quarterfinal. This is going to be a close matchup, but I think Missouri is clicking just a little bit better than Oklahoma. If we see the Oklahoma from mid-season, then I'd take the Sooners easily, but they're not looking like that Sooner team. I'm going to have to take Missouri on this one. Next up is going to be the 5 seed Creighton against the 12 seed UCSB. This is that 12-5 seed that you're trying to figure out if you're going to pick that upset or not. Creighton finished the season 20-8. They were 3-2 against the top 25 they played. They finished 2nd overall in the Big East, got to the Big East Championship in the tournament, and lost to Georgetown. They won 3 out of the last 4 games in the regular season. Now for UCSB, they finished the season 22-4. They won the Big West in the regular season, and they won the Big West tournament. They're also on a 5-game winning streak. Creighton averages 77 points per game, not bad, and they allow 68.3 points per game. UCSB scores 76.5 points per game, but only allows 62.8 points per game. Pretty good defense. UCSB has won 18 out of their last 19 games. I just think they're going to be overmatched. Creighton is a good team. They were on a roll. They got upset by Georgetown, but Georgetown got really, really hot. I'm not picking the 12 to beat the 5 in the West region. I'm taking Creighton. Next up, we have the 4 seed Virginia against the 13 seed Ohio. Virginia finished the season 18-6. Ohio finished the season 16-7. Virginia averages 68.6 points per game. That's not good, but they only allow 60.5 points per game, so they rely on defense. For Ohio, they score 80.9 points per game. A very good offensive team, but they do allow 73.3 points per game. But I think this matchup does favor Ohio. Virginia did finish 1st in the ACC, but they had to forfeit in the ACC tournament. But guys, they are only 1-3 against the top 25. It's not good. Ohio is currently on a 3-game win streak, and they won 9 out of their last 10 games. They're 0-1 against the top 25, so they just haven't played them that much. But I think this matchup favors Ohio. They can score a ton of points. Virginia is not a very good offensive team. I just think this is a bad matchup for Virginia, so I am taking the upset. I'm going to take Ohio. We have another little playing game for the 11th seed, and that's Wichita State and Drake. Drake is a great Cinderella story, and they are a good team, but Wichita State played really, really good in a tough conference. I think Wichita State is just tested more, and they had to deal with COVID issues during mid-season. I think Wichita State's hard work and perseverance pays off. I'm taking Wichita State. So that leaves us with the 6th seed USC and the 11th seed Wichita State. Look, I think the Shockers are a great team. I just think playing Drake in a playing game is just going to be too much. The winners of those playing games haven't had much success. USC is a good team, and I think they'll get it done. The next matchup is the 3 seed Kansas against the 14 seed Eastern Washington. Kansas finished the season 20-8. 2nd in the Big 12. They got really, really hot towards the end of the season. They scored 73.1 points per game, but allowed just 65.8 points per game. Good on both sides of the ball. They've won 8 out of their last 9 games. They had to forfeit their game in the Big 12 tournament because of COVID, but in that stretch where they won 8 out of the last 9, they also had a win against Baylor. That's big. And they are 8-6 against the top 25. They played a tough schedule. Now for Eastern Washington, they're 16-7. They score 78 points per game, good offensive team, and allow 69.4 points per game. They finished second in the Big Sky in the regular season, but won the Big Sky tournament. They have not played a top 25 team. They are not tested, but they have won 13 out of their last 14 games. I know Kansas could still be dealing with COVID vacancies during this game. I just think Kansas is way too hot, way too deep, and way too experienced. I'm taking the Jayhawks. Next up is the interesting matchup between the 7-seed Oregon and the 10-seed VCU. Now in my live stream, I picked VCU. Oregon finished the season 20-6. VCU finished the season 19-7. Oregon averaged 74.4 points per game and allowed 67.4 points per game. VCU scores 70.7 points per game and allows 65.2 points per game. Both Oregon and VCU were 0-1 against top 25. Oregon won 11 out of their last 12 games. They did lose in the Pac-12 tournament to Oregon State, but they were a hot team. They did finish the regular season first in the Pac-12. VCU finished second in the A-10. They got to the A-10 championship and lost to the champions, St. Bonaventure. VCU won 3 out of the last 5, so kind of hot, but not really hot. But the big problem for VCU is their leading scorer, Nashawn Highland, has an injury. He averages 21 points per game, so that affected my pick, and I have to go with Oregon. At first I had VCU winning a tight game, but that flipped it over to Oregon. I'm taking the Ducks. That leaves us with the 2-seed Iowa against the 15-seed Grand Canyon. Iowa averages 83.8 points per game and allows 71.9 points per game. Grand Canyon averages 75.6 points per game but only allows 61.1 points per game. Iowa finished third in the Big Ten and lost in the Big Ten semifinal to Illinois. Grand Canyon had won 4 out of the last 5 and they won the Big West Championship, first in the regular season and won the tournament. Iowa is 8-5 against the top 25. Grand Canyon 0-1. Now the great thing is the coach for Grand Canyon was that guy for Valparaiso that hit that game-winning shot for 15-seed Valparaiso to beat 2-seed Ole Miss. So I'm going with the storyline. I'm going with my gut, and I'm taking the massive upset. Grand Canyon over Iowa. I know you disagree. Our first second round matchup, the 1-seed Gonzaga against the 9-seed Missouri. I think that game against Oklahoma takes too much out of Missouri, and I think Gonzaga overwhelms the Tigers. Next, the 5-seed Creighton against the 13-seed Ohio. I think this is where the Cinderella story for Ohio goes down the drain. Creighton flexes their Big East muscles and beats Ohio in a good back-and-forth game. Next, the 6-seed USC against the 3-seed Kansas. I think Kansas is depth. I think they're hot. They have good coaching. I think they're just better everywhere on the court. Kansas takes care of the Trojans. Next up, the 7th seed Oregon against the 15th seed Grand Canyon. All good things must come to an end. And I think this is where it comes to an end for Grand Canyon. They make a great run. They just don't have the dogs to keep going. I think Oregon wears Grand Canyon out. Our first Sweet 16 game in the West region. The 1-seed Gonzaga against the 5-seed Creighton. I think Gonzaga shoots the ball much, much better than Creighton. I think that'll be the difference. This game could get ugly. I got Gonzaga big over Creighton. The other Sweet 16 matchup is the 7-seed Oregon against the 3-seed Kansas. Look, Oregon has not played a team like Kansas. Kansas will be the best team that Oregon plays, and Oregon will not have the answer. Kansas will overwhelm Oregon and advance to the Elite 8 to play Gonzaga. So that brings us to our Elite 8 game in the West region. The 1-seed Gonzaga against the 3-seed Kansas. Gonzaga looks like the best team in the nation this year, and Gonzaga and Kansas have played before. Gonzaga won. I don't think they're going to repeat. I think Kansas figures it out. Kansas is really hot right now. They're on a roll, a lot of confidence, great coaching, and I think Gonzaga's defense will be exposed. Kansas's defense will do just enough to keep Gonzaga scoring all over them, and Kansas will put up enough points to beat Gonzaga. I'm taking the Jayhawks to get to the Final Four. Now, of course, this is assuming that Kansas's COVID issues gets resolved. If that doesn't get resolved, then this will be a completely different story. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.